Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rahma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. And our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Press 1. That puts you in queue to talk to Michael. We already have hands up in the switchboard. We'd love to hear from you, talk to you, answer your questions, hear your comments, and we appreciate your input. We hope everybody had a wonderful 4th of July. We did, and we're back in Bristol. And welcome, Michael, to the show.
Thank you, sweetie, and welcome everybody to MindShifters Radio. We're here to support you in our study of and our understanding of the application of the ancient Aramaic idea of forgiveness. One of our primary purposes in doing this show, well, two of them actually. One is to support you. That if you have a question, if you have a challenge with any of the tools we teach, or a challenge with any aspect of your life, in these tools there is an answer to your challenge. And we're here to support you in having that answer and carrying that answer through to where you bring healing into those areas of your life. The invitation that we issue every day on the show is to be part of the team that changed the world. One of our goals is to eradicate war from planet Earth, to deal with war at its root cause rather than trying to change the effect, as most of humanity is about doing with virtually everything, whether it's health or drug problems or whatever it is. Most everybody's trying to change the effect, but nobody wants to look at and deal with the cause. When you go back to the ancient Aramaic language, which interestingly enough is the root language of at least 6 of the world's major religions, though it's not a religious language. It's a physics language. It's a psychological language. It's a genetic language. It's a language that perfectly understood and describes physiology. When you go into the Aramaic, you find answers to everything that's going on in your world. And so what we're here to do is to support you in having those answers. And, of course, in so doing, we get to learn them ourselves on deeper and deeper and deeper levels. How are we going to eradicate war? Well, we have a plan, and we ask you to participate in our plan. And the plan goes like this. If I have some form of hostility or fear in me, and I want to pretend that you're the problem in my life and talk about you, then I'm in denial and dissociation with a part of my mind. As long as I live in denial and dissociation, I cannot repair the part of my mind that needs repairing. And I will always try to find an answer outside of me. So you'll notice most everything and everybody's looking out there and you know, doctor, fix me. Oh, somebody, please fix me. Like I'm an innocent victim and I have no power. Well, we're here to tell you that you have all the power and you are not an innocent victim. You are just a volunteer. And if you don't know how you volunteer to get into the scrapes that you get into, we can tell you precisely why. That's because there's a part of your mind you've denied, you've dissociated from, and in that part of your mind lies the root of the problem. So the ancient Aramaic idea of forgiveness has nothing to do with anything about anybody else. The Greeks taught us, oh, you know, I have all this pain inside of me, but it's your fault, I'll just forgive you. That has nothing whatsoever to do with forgiveness. When you understand forgiveness, you will stop forgiving people. You will stop forgiving yourself. And if you find yourself in some form of hostility or fear, you'll go inside yourself and delete your hostility and fear. Whoever told you, like who da thunk it? Forgiveness is a tool for removing content from your mind, from your body, from your emotions. It's how to remove what never belonged. So that's what we're here to support you in. If you are not sure about how to do that, well, we have a whole, a large cadre of support information to assist you in learning the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. It's a process most people are not really interested in. Most people really don't want to engage in because they live in a world where their mind lies to them all the time, and it's all everybody else's fault. And, of course, one of my favorite workshop tongue-in-cheek lines is, you'll notice if you've been through a particular painful reality 87 different times with 42 different people, you'll recognize you're the only one that was there every time. Your internal process is the cause of your pain. Nothing outside of you can cause you pain. Short of a Mack truck hitting you, cancel that thought. And if a Mack truck's coming down the pike and you're not in some sort of pain or turmoil, you're going to get an internal message that says, step out of the way. There's a truck coming. So we're designed to thrive in the world, and when we dissociate from the part of us that knows how to create that ability to thrive, we hide the part of us that holds the hostility, the fear, the pain of the generations, and by so doing, we lose our human lives. We have an easy experiential definition of a human life. There's no way you can put this experience of a human life into words. There just isn't even a scratching of the surface. But there's an awesome experiential definition of a human life. Hold a newborn child. You know exactly what a human life is. You know exactly what you are born to experience, what your birthright is to experience that awesome active presence of love 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And if you're not, then there's some content you need to be about removing. And if you refuse to remove it, and you start talking about how they did this and they did that, and if only you'd be different, if only you, if only, then you end up creating more and more of the trauma and pain inside yourself, all the while pretending it's everybody else's fault. We're here to put an end to that game. When we do, guess what happens? War disappears. And fortunately, we don't need to get these tools to 7.5 billion people. All we need to do is get a critical mass. There's a guy 2,000 years ago that said, a little leavening leavens the whole loaf. He wasn't talking about bread. He was talking about humanity. And it's only going to take a few who actually choose to do their work to change the whole game. So we're here to help you to change your game and to move into a human life so powerfully that you bring that presence of love with you everywhere you go. And when you do, you will be part of the leavening. You will change the world, and that's what we're here to support happening. So, Jeanie, you said you have a caller or two. Let's go to our callers. Dr. Tim with us, by the way, first, and David?
Dr. Tim is with us. David's not yet.
Okay. Well, welcome, Dr. Tim. Do you have anything to share with us today?
Nothing big right now. I'm just listening in. A very nice intro, and I'm anxious to hear what the callers have to say.
Okay. Well, let's go with the callers and see what's on.
Awesome. Area code 541. You're on the air.
541. Is that Julia Burns?
That's Julia Burns in Oregon. How are you, young lady?
Well, it's fine. I just talked with our other friends here, and she said, "Oh, let's tune into the into your program." I hadn't been thinking about it lately. I've got lots of other things on my lips, but I got a real big pain in my neck. That's my primary concern, and so if we can find out what that pain in my neck is, I guess we could put me in a more comfortable place.
Well, my first thought would be to look at, if you look, the higher energies come in through the top of the head, and the lower energies come in through the lower parts of the body, and the neck tends to be the connection between heaven and earth, between the upper, higher realms and the lower. So you might look at whether or not there's something that's disconnecting you, that's reflecting as that, or if you've used the power phrase, that person is a pain in the neck, or this is a pain, or that is a pain. And by so doing, we can, literally create pain within our structures. And so you might just want to take a look at and see if there's anybody even saying that about, or any situation or circumstance, and or how are you doing at getting your higher guidance. I know you've done a lot of work over the years and in your many years in this field of study, and you've brought in some very high energies with the work you've done with other people, with your hands and such, and healing. And is there something that's blocking you from bringing that into your form for yourself these days?
Well, for one thing, I have people who were vagrants that I had worked at a place for free meals and that sort of thing. And so now one of them is in prison. I didn't put them here, but he's in prison for life for other things he's done. But they've been breaking into my house, and this one here, I was screaming at him to get out of my house. And part of their intent is that if they stay here or something, then they think that they get part of the property or something. Well, it's an extremely uncomfortable situation dealing with anything like that when I've got enough work here to do on all other levels. And that's, I guess there's some sort of forgiveness there that needs to be done if they thought they did something for me back years ago or something, or find something like that and release it. That's the primary thing. There's a lot in taking care of this place and everything. But pardon?
I say then my first order of business would be to look at this person and what is the energy, what is the goal you hold for them that you need to clean up and see what about you. I know that since we met you about 3 years ago or 2 years ago, you've been having this conversation about these folks, and what is there in you? Okay, they've got a problem, they've got a challenge, and it may be perfectly acceptable and appropriate to hold them legally accountable. In other words, if you've broken into my house, I pick up the phone and I call the police and have you taken care of that way. But I know that this has been a repeated pattern for you, so you might want to look at some worksheets on Julia. And what's the part of Julia that feels like she doesn't deserve her own space, or she deserves to be invaded, to have other people come in and take her things? What part of you is involved in that? And as you let go of that, you'll probably find that you can shift that energy, and you'll find that people respect your property and your person.
Yeah, that sounds good. Sitting from the outside, describing it from the outside. I'm kind of speechless right at this second on that. Someone had said, a girlfriend, she said, maybe there was something that they did at one time that was kind of a service, and maybe you didn't pay them back well enough or something like that. And I've been, contemplating that, but it's well, one of them's in prison for life. That was the first one, and that's probably when last I spoke with you. And that wasn't even any of my doing. That happened. The other one came right afterwards, and it's well, I think maybe just an inner dialogue, with them instead of just screaming at them to get the hell out of my house.
And when you look at that inclination to scream, that screaming generally comes from your own fear, your own rage, your own hostility. And so it might be time to start to deal with that rage internally and to start to forgive your capacity to rage, so that when something happens that's out of order in your life, you bring to bear on that situation your human presence rather than the hostility and fear of your generations. And as you bring your human presence to bear, that really, truly starts to change things. It's very powerful. And so I would support you in doing those worksheets, and maybe once you've done a few around those issues, give us a call back and let us know how it's going.
All right, I've got a couple of them out here right now. I just got to talking with Julie, and she's the addresses that we call in here, and
cool.
I've got a couple of sheets
out. Well, tell
yes.
Julie that we said hello and we send our love, and we look forward to seeing her in just a couple of weeks. She's going to be heading up to Heartland.
Yeah, that's what she said. She's coming
training.
out to do that. I think that's exciting.
Cool.
And I presume that, where have you been since the last time I talked? You were
we've
way
been
out
all over.
in the boonies.
Yes, well, we've been all over. We just finished a family reunion out in Jonesboro, Virginia,
That's
this
right.
weekend. We had about 125 people down in the old family farm. It was an awesome weekend. And
Oh, wow.
getting ready tomorrow night and Saturday in Asheville, North Carolina. If anybody's in that area, Saturday morning, we're doing Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And tomorrow night we're doing a raw food potluck. It'll be out in Weaverville, just north of Asheville. And Saturday morning, the same place in Weaverville, 9 in the morning. And then I'll be, actually, when I finish that, I'll pack up and be on the road to Birmingham, Alabama. Be in Birmingham for a week, starting Sunday for a week, and then from Birmingham back to Heartland for Food, Fun, Forgiveness, and Work Project, teacher training, 9-day Y intensive, and then back on the road. I've got a family reunion. This one was Jeannie's family, and I've got a family reunion happening right after the intensive. So we're going to be on the road pretty quickly.
You're a little busy. My sister's
in
Birmingham, Alabama.
Wonderful things going on.
Pardon?
All right, Julia, well, we love you and we appreciate you and we hold you in a blessing. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Jeannie, you've got another caller? You button on,
No, they hung up. They hung up. So 646-200-4169. Press 1, and that puts you in queue to talk. We have a whole bunch of people on the switchboard. There is absolutely nobody in the chat room today. So that's unusual. I'm going to hit a refresh on that and see if there's some kind of issue on it. But anybody that's in the switchboard, press 1 if you want to talk. We'd love to hear from you.
So if we were on
and a hand just went up.
Oh, well, let's go for it then.
It's also a 541.
Hey, it's Julie.
Hey there, young lady. How are you?
I'm good. I loved your intro. I just feel like it summarized the whole purpose for why I'm attending Heartland this year, so thank you.
Well, you know something, Julie? That's exactly why I'm attending Heartland, too.
Yeah, you're so awesome. You guys, I just
the gift, I've kind of put myself in a position about 40 or so years ago of forced growth when I said, okay, I'm going to become a full-time teacher of this work. And for those who think you're getting involved in a short-term project, if you start doing this work and you'll be finished in a few weeks or a few months, I have news for you. You are going to open a depth in yourself and a level of understanding and comprehension that has rarely been seen on the planet. Yeshua, there's a point where he's working with the disciples and, the depth of understanding that the disciples were starting to get. And he says, the prophets of old would love to have understood what you're understanding right now. And I know that each time I teach it, I've been teaching the forgiveness process, the worksheet process for well over now a quarter of a century. And I feel like it's the last 2 or 3 years that I'm really, really starting to comprehend it and understand the wisdom and the power of the thought process that Yeshua used to support people in their healing process. And so it is an awesome long-term project. And pardon me, not many people are going to take 4 decades or 4.5 decades to stick to doing it full-time. And so I kind of put myself in a position where, okay, I'm going to have to learn the next piece of the puzzle and the next one and the next one. And my delight is to be able to share that with every mind, heart, and being on the planet. And we certainly count this radio show as a step in that direction of taking the tools forward into the world.
Well, you're doing it. You're doing it.
That's the plan.
You open so much ground for the rest of us and the rest of us working together that, it may not take 4 more decades. Thank you for your commitment.
That's what I'm holding the space for. And actually, there's a really awesome, I was just talking with one of the people on the support team at Heartland right now, and she was sharing how so much she's done a lot of work over the years. She's actually a Unity minister and has done a huge amount of work over the years, and how a new depth is opening for her as she's engaged in the energy field, the space of support for moving to depth. It's a challenge to live in a world that's filled with drugs and distraction. And when I talk about drugs, I'm not just talking about the legal or the illegal kind. I'm talking about sugar and caffeine and nicotine and junk food that when we're surrounded with that stuff, it's a challenge to rise above it and really allow yourself to begin to go to depth. And so with the nutritional program at Heartland and the support folks that are there, there's some awesome stuff opening and happening. And we look forward to welcoming you into that space and moving your process to the next step.
Yep, it's going to be pretty big. More and more is opening up for me. I'd like to share if there's no other caller. I don't need to, but I could share.
Go for it. What's happening?
Okay, well, yesterday I had I'm going to call it an anger explosion, or, experience.
Another opportunity to learn forgiveness?
Yeah, and, and I got to experience how much I don't like having the anger experience happening in me, and I'm very committed to removing it. So the trigger was I got to see the unconscious trigger, and so I know I have so much work to do. But then again, it's I can almost visualize that what I'm doing is I'm putting almost like like an underwater scuba diver, the old-fashioned kind that had an air line from the top, a boat on the top that held the air line to them.
Right.
I feel like I'm bringing air into this really stagnant, toxic environment, and I now know how to hold on to that tube of air and make sure it is not severed and lost. So that feels good. And I saw how I've had this sort of crusade and agenda in life to feel bad for those who couldn't take care of themselves and those who were persecuted and oppressed, and animal abuse and all these, the big word is atrocities. I mean, atrocities.
So you've chosen, so what, if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're sharing with us is that you've chosen to support those who've experienced atrocities and staying stuck in those atrocities. Is that what I'm hearing?
Perhaps that's what you're hearing.
If you have hostility or fear about any atrocity that you see happening around you in your world, then you're a supporter of hostility and fear and atrocity.
Oh, I get it.
It's the trick. There's a great scene if you watch the original Star Wars movie. There's a great scene where Luke Skywalker, who's the light fighter, and the evil Lord, they kind of get Luke into their lair. His father, Darth Vader, who's the servant of the evil master, and they bring Luke Skywalker in, who's the hero, and he's going to kill the bad guys, and they show him a map of the galaxies. The evil master shows him a map of the galaxy, and he accurately describes where all of his friends who are part of the rebellion are hiding out in this planet way off, in the far corners of space, where they think they're secreted away. And the evil master says to Luke, by the way, the reason I got you here, I invited you here, is I want you to watch while I blow up your friends. I'm going to destroy this planet. And he accurately describes where they are. And he's purposely left his weapon laying there beside Luke, and he taunts Luke. He says, go ahead, hate me. Go ahead, kill me. Powerful lesson there. The only thing that they were interested in doing with Luke Skywalker, who was working with the light, was switching into the darkness. Even if he'd been so capable that he could have picked up the sword and killed the evil Lord won, because he switched him to the dark side by getting him to hate and getting him to kill. And when we see the atrocities, when we see the pain and the suffering in the world, and that resonates in us, our unresolved pain and suffering, we tend to become disturbed about what looks like their pain and suffering, but it's really our own. And the refusal to clean up our own pain and suffering before we go try to fix it for somebody else means that we, on an energetic level, are contributing to the pain and suffering of others as well as ourselves. And so the first order of business is always, if I have some form of hostility or fear around this issue, then I want to clean that hostility or fear out of myself so that I can be a space of support for the healing of this quality of fear and hostility, rather than energetically just resonating with it and adding energy to it, increasing it.
Exactly.
A little different way than the way the world looks at it.
Yeah, and I just can't wait to turn it around in myself.
You got support?
Yep, I do. I'm doing the right thing. I just can't wait to get there and to Heartland. Well, one thing also I experienced, I feel what I would label as the experience of dissociation, and I have been experiencing that the deeper I go into these experiences that I turn around and heal rather than continue to contribute to. And so that's the next thing that I want to learn to be with, and I'm noticing the decisions I made about how I would deal with, that at the times that they happened in the past, and the coping mechanisms that I layered onto it, and just so that it is a real uncomfortable feeling, like the human being that I truly am is sort of blown apart and fragmented, and just dissociated. And so bringing the love in is all it takes. I mean, the solution is simple, but we have to remember. So thank you.
Simple, but not always easy. And the specialty of the world is to blow apart who we are, to so shatter. There's a great line in the song about Vincent van Gogh, who I guess was this very gentle spirit. And the line in that song, if you remember it, is, "This world was never meant for one as beautiful as you." And that's really, he's symbolic of every one of us in our true being and our true beauty. If you hold a newborn child, there's no other word except this awesome presence of beauty and love and purity and innocence. And the specialty, the world has been working for thousands of years, conspiring, a very real conspiracy, to destroy that, to shatter that with its hostilities and fears. And, of course, conspiracy simply means to breathe together. I oftentimes, people say, "Oh, are you one of those conspiracy nuts?" No, I'm not a conspiracy nut. I know there's a conspiracy. I can prove there's a conspiracy, and I can show you how to prove it to yourself. It's easy as ABC to prove that the conspiracy is on, that the game is happening. And what I suggest to people, and actually you may have heard me do this in the workshops when I was out there, but I invite people to take a piece of paper, draw on a 1/4-inch margin down one side of the page, sit in front of the television set, and flip from station to station to station, spending no more than 3 minutes on any station. And every time you hear a word that truly represents human life, this awesome purity, presence, being, sweetness, innocence, when you hear a word that truly represents that and comes and is delivered with the energy of that pure presence, put a check mark on the page. And every time you hear a word based in hostility or fear, put a check mark on the page. I guarantee everybody's results in that experiment will be the same. There'll be 10 pages of check marks on hostility and fear before you get one column filled with words about human life. If you go back to the physicist Yeshua, who understood the physics of the world and vibration and energy and how words represent frequencies held in mind, he said the power of life and death is in your words. And when you look at it, do you suppose that the power of life is in the words of being, of presence, of purity, of sweetness, of human life, of love, or are they in the words of hostility and fear? It's real clear that the words that support human life are not the ones based in hostility or fear. Is there a conspiracy to suck everybody into hostility and fear on the planet? Yeah. There's no question about it. Just look at the media. Just look at, the latest movie. Just look at what, and this has kind of become a pet peeve for me. Maybe I haven't done any worksheets on this. Maybe I need to do a couple. Look at over the last 15 years, since women in the last few decades have become wealth producers, look at how it's now considered to be women's lib, that women can now go off and murder people just as well as men and be slaughtered in war just like men. And you look at how many movies promote that. You look at how many movies are just, there was an appalling film that came out of Disney Studios, supposedly the children's place, and this appalling film on not Snow White, but what's the Alice in Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland.
Now, Alice drops down the rabbit hole, and the rabbit greets her and says, "We brought you here to kill somebody." And she says, "I don't kill." And the rabbit says to her, now this is a children's fairy tale. The rabbit says to her, "What's wrong with you that you don't kill?" You want to talk about an insane world? We've got this famous children's television movie, world-renowned children's place called Disney. And they ask a little girl why she won't kill. They're programming women to become slaughterers like men because they have to be able to send the wealth producers off to kill them. When we get too wealthy, we think about who we are. And we think about who we are, we won't support the king's wars anymore. We need to wake up. So that's all part of the game and part of the work of healing ourselves, each other, and the planet is let's get back to human life. And to do that, all we have to do is face most of everything that's ever been put in us by the power persons around us, by our own personal power persons, our family systems, our cultural systems, and return ourselves to true expression and experience of human life where every cell in the structure sings out with this awesome active presence of love as it was designed to do.
Wow. Very good. I'd say I could do some worksheets too. Guess what?
Well, thanks for opening this space for that question and those thoughts to come forward, because I think it's something that we need to be reminded of from time to time. I know it's something I need to be reminded of from time to time, to keep clearing that and moving out that hostility and fear that seems so justifiable. And yeah, it is justifiable, but that justification kills you when you do it. It's time for us to stop killing ourselves and each other. It's time for us to get on with human life. I mean, who knows what the planet would be like if we actually had 24/7, 365, 7.5 million people living as the awesome active presence of love. What do you suppose? Do you think there could be a starving child on the earth? Do you think there'd be a person living in poverty? Do you think there could be any kind of atrocity happen? I'd offer not possible. Then we'd know what human life was about. Otherwise, where there is hostility or fear, there is no human life. Human life has been lost. It's been shattered.
Who was it that said
so the world?
Go
the
ahead.
world. Just one other thought, and that is that the world was meant for one as beautiful as you. The Creator created a Garden of Eden to support and nurture us. We bought into something different. It's time for us to go back to the garden. So go ahead, Julie. Excuse me.
Thank you. I know where I heard this, but I'm not sure who originally said that you become what you resist. I heard it through Werner Erhard years ago in Erhard Seminars training. And, what you just said is true. And so if we stop the resistance within ourselves, it can clear everywhere, and we can walk in the garden and be a different energetic interaction with others. So I'm practicing
definitely time
that.
for a wake-up.
Yep. Thank you, Michael. I'll let you go with someone else, and I'll see you soon.
All right, blessings. We'll see you in just a couple of weeks.
Yep.
And anybody else that's ready to take your work to the next level, we're going to be starting our intensive season. Actually, we'll do a 10-day food, fun, forgiveness, and work project. And if you want to hear about what Ari's got planned for food, you could check out the archives on the radio show. There were a couple of shows back last week, the week before, where he talked about some of the awesome stuff that you're going to learn about food. And Ari, this walking encyclopedia on the topic of food, will be there with us starting on the 12th of July, and we'll be doing work projects during the day. It's kind of an economy program that we do at Heartland each year. We'll be doing work projects during the day, and then in the evening we'll do classwork, and we'll be doing at least 2 mind shifters and still point breathing sessions in that 10 days. We'll be doing, some fun things as well, and Ari's fabulous food. And so if you want to come and join us, that economy program for everything, food, accommodations, workshop materials, everything is a total of $750 for 10 days. Awesome. I mean, you aren't going to believe the food we're going to eat. And so we'll be doing that, and then we'll actually take a day off on the 22nd, and then on the 23rd in the evening, we'll start with a 9-day, why is this happening to me again? And in that workshop, we'll do a whole range of things. Why is this happening to me again? Healing through relationships, communication. Did you hear what I think I said? Purpose, personal power, and commitment, empowered to heal. We'll be doing lots of different things in that 10-day process, and so we invite you to come and join us, be part of the process. Jeanie, do we have any other callers? Anything happening in the chat room that we should be aware of?
There's nothing going on in the chat room, and there are no other callers right at the moment. So 646-200-4169 and press 1. That puts you in queue. I'm actually going to be getting away from the switchboard at 15 till, so at that point we're not going to be able to take callers, so you've got about 10 minutes. Call in, press 1. David is with us now. I've got him turned on.
Oh, cool. Hey, David, how are you, sir? Good morning, David. Good afternoon, David.
I'm here.
Hey, how are you, sir?
Hi.
I'm doing well. I am doing well. Got on a little bit late today. I heard you say something that Mary Lou was on earlier, and so I'll talk with her and see what it was that she shared with the rest of the group, and to invite people that are on their way to participate in the fun food and forgiveness, as well as the Why Again and Teachers Training, that the group here is really preparing for their arrival in a cosmetic way and in a emotional, spiritual way themselves, the work that they are doing to create a standard in a space for people to bring whatever it is that they are ready to work on, then this group here is a real good, solid foundation for that to evolve and for people to process through it. It's going to be real interesting. That's where I'm at today.
Cool. And Mary Lou, actually, I had talked to her before the show. She wasn't actually on the show, but she had called to just say hello, and she was acknowledging how excited she is and pumped about the work that you guys are doing with Laws of Living and the support that she's getting from you and from everybody. So it was a good conversation, and lots of neat stuff happening.
Yeah, doing well.
So do you have anything in particular, David, to share with us? Any awesome thoughts to move us in the direction of preparation for intensive time at Heartland and what's coming next?
Well, my thoughts are is to prepare, is to start doing whatever preparations need to be handled so that they are clear and out of the way, so that the person, whoever arrives, can be here presently. If there's some bills to handle or rides and arrangements to be made, that they get made in advance, that people understand that you're going to be here, and kind of let go of the need to stay in touch with people while you're here, so that you can use the space as a way of really quietening things down, the busyness of the work that goes on an everyday basis with it, to make a commitment to be doing 5 worksheets a day in preparation of coming, and to make a commitment to read a minimum of 15 minutes a day and or listen to a video or a DVD, the VHS, whatever it is that you have around this work daily, and make that commitment with someone and acknowledge when that commitment is complete, and to support themselves in being here, because that's going to be a process that will be evolving when here. And if you're in the space and already doing it, then when you arrive, then you'll just be in better shape. Kind of like someone going out for spring training for baseball or football or any kind of athletic sport, well, then they get themselves in shape before that they arrive by doing certain things. Same principle applies for the mind and the healing aspect of it. And as you talk about, they can begin detoxing by letting go of if they're used to drinking coffee, to let go of, or caffeine, to let go of that. And prior to arriving, if they will let go of doing some of the things that will detox their body, then they'll be on an accelerated pace then. So that's my thoughts.
Well, right on. I'm in full agreement with you. And, the more preparation one's willing to do, the deeper they're going to be able to go, the higher they're going to be able to climb. So that's what Heartland's about, and that's what we're here to support people in. Whether you do the intensive with us at Heartland, or, you might do your own intensive at home and take it forward. I know that Julio, who you've heard on the show once or twice before, is the last time we talked to him, Julio had, in becoming prepared to step into the 9-day intensive that we did here in Florida back a few weeks ago, he started doing some fasting and some cleansing, and actually the last time we talked to him, I think it's 3 months out from the start of him putting himself on a program, he'd taken off 85 pounds, and he's been continuing that process and getting ready to head to Heartland for the teacher's training, and so he's just moving himself forward, which is pretty cool, pretty cool to watch and to see the kind of changes taking place.
Good for Julio.
Okay, there had been a caller with their hand up, and they have now disappeared. So, caller, if you would, press 1 if you're still on the switchboard, and that'll put you back in queue, and I can turn you on. 646-200-4169. Press 1.
Cool. So anybody who's got a thought for us? Or Tim, do you have any thoughts on the conversation with Julie or anything else that we're working on?
No, not really.
How about you, Dr. Tim?
Well, I just want to echo what David was saying, that I've been to 2 different intensives, and for one, I was well prepared. I'd been doing a lot of healthy eating and exercise and have some balance in my life. And for the other one, I kind of got thrown into it at the last minute. And I had been not as well prepared, and I felt the difference. So the more we can do leading up to this to eat right, get some exercise, take as many of the drugs out of our system as possible, do some worksheets in preparation, the more benefit we'll get from the intensive process. My other thought was that on our Tuesday night group, I only mentioned it briefly yesterday at the end of the call, but it was just so powerful once again to see somebody whose very first worksheet had such a dramatic result for them. And I think it's a combination of factors. They were very ready to make a shift. They'd been through some very intense issues for the last number of years in their lives, and they just had the willingness They absolutely had the willingness to just trust the process and go with the flow, and the results were there for them. So the Reality Management Worksheet process, just one of the many tools that are offered through the intensives, and it's available. It's online. It's free. Don't let excuses get in the way. If you have any discomfort in your life, this is a part of a way to remove it. That would be my thought. Are you there?
I am. Sounds right on. I left my mute button on. Yeah, I'm. You're right on there, and that's what we're here to support everybody in doing. Whether you're doing the work at home or whether you're going to come on the road with us and come to Heartland, whatever it is that's happening, take the tool, put it to work, and watch the monumental changes that take place. And that's our whole project here, is to support you in that. And so Jeannie's got about another couple of minutes, and she's going to be leading the show. So if anyone has a question, now would be the time to hit the button, hit 1, and that will put you in queue, and Jeannie will be able to turn you on. Otherwise, she's going to be leaving us in just a couple of minutes to head off to an appointment that she needs to do, and we won't be able to add any more callers in. So if you and I were sitting in a room by ourselves right now, and we were having the conversation we've just had, the whole conversation with Julie and with Julia, what would your thought be? Would you have a question? Did it make sense to talk about being a victim instead, or being a volunteer instead of a victim, and how to change that? Any questions for us, please? 646-200-4169. We'd love to hear your sweet voice. So, Jeannie, do you have anything happening?
A hand just went up, so area code 810, you're on the air.
Hey, Michael, Jeannie, it's Adam.
Oh, hey, Adam, welcome. How are you, sir?
Thank you. Doing well. Doing well. I mean, for the most part, I've been experiencing some health challenges and other things, and working through it. So still doing the 5 a day, and happy for that. Wish I could come to the intensives, but right now I'm in a custody situation where that's not possible. But
so, how can we support you?
I had a question about right now I'm experiencing this custody exchange situation, and it appears when my son comes that he has some aggression towards me and my parents, and also has some behaviors which are not ideal. And so, I understand that I need to clear up whatever's inside of me that arises in response to those behaviors and aggression. But I was wondering, are there other tools that I can work with him to help him move through his stuff that he has coming up too?
Have you presented him with the forgiveness process yet? Have you taught him the reality management tool? We have it on the website. There's a children's version of the commitment, and we've had kids as young as 4 successfully using these tools. Have you done any forgiveness work with him?
I haven't. He's 3, and I was doing worksheets every day with formerly my stepson, because I'm not allowed to see him right now. But he was 7 years old, and we were doing the worksheet process together, and it was really cool. But he wasn't invested in it when we were doing it. Like, he was doing it because we set it up where he'd get a video game if he did it for so many days in a row, and he was kind of just going through the motions. And but we did them every day for 40 days with him, so it was cool.
The beauty of going through the motions is, even if there's no sincerity or desire on his part, which, you can understand as kids in the culture today would not necessarily be invested in that, the fact is he's building the brain cells, and when it's time for it to kick in, it's going to kick in. And, a child with aggression at this early age is probably reflecting the pain that he's feeling, and with the pain he's feeling with the separation of his parents, he's going to
lash out in whatever way he can to try to avoid what he's feeling inside. And so my highest thought would be that you really be clear in feeling what's inside of you and communicating responsibly for what's going on in you and your feelings around this whole thing, and share that with him and let him know where you're at with it. And as you model that, chances are that, most of his training has been around, what's going on with everybody else. Why are they doing this to me? And chances are that as a young boy losing a relationship with you, that he's hurting. And he's, with his hurt, the tendency, as you've perhaps noticed in your own life and with most of us, is now that I'm hurting, I'm going to lash out and hurt somebody else. And to just modeling, just languaging and modeling that you have hurt and you're going to be responsible for the way you language about your hurt is going to open a huge space for him to be able to shift out of that pain within himself. But without the modeling, without somebody doing that, chances of him doing it are going to be relatively slim.
Yeah, that's great. My mom and I had a conscious conversation about doing the exact thing yesterday about her and I modeling the responsibility communication with each other when he's around. And so yeah, that's great. Yeah. So I can share with him, or it'd be helpful to share with him, what's coming up for me around the whole situation, around like missing him and whatnot.
What's coming up for you, and then quizzing him and creating a safe space for him to just speak about what's going on for him. What are you feeling? What's happening? What do you think about all of this? And as he's able to tap into those feelings and shift and change, a safe space to express it in the presence of love is half of what it takes to make that shift happen. And so as you model it and you create the safe space, you invite him, you encourage him to speak about, and even if his speaking is kind of, what the culture considers unacceptable, it's angry, it's hurt, it's raging, you may have some of that come up. And, especially if you've ever noticed yourself angry, hurting, or raging, then as you, instead of reacting to his anger, hurt, and rage, you can just be the space of love. Then you're going to help him to make a shift, and things are going to change.
Yeah, that sounds really powerful. I was, I have asked him sometimes about what his experience is and stuff, and he is pretty quiet about anything, and so I think though the more that I can move into a greater depth of that space of love and just hold the space of non-judgment for him to share in whatever, as you said, in like whatever way he needs to share, that that I'll be more expressive.
Well, that's absolutely the most powerful gift I know that you can give him. And to affirm his feelings while inviting him to recognize that he doesn't have to be lost in those feelings, that he can change them, which is not exactly, the general conversation on planet Earth today. The general conversation is, yeah, they really hurt you, and whereas when you start to model that you can move through those things and take responsibility, then he's going to recognize that he can start to change those things. But unfortunately, at this stage, there's not a lot of support for that in the culture, because the culture is all about how they did it to you and how it's all their fault, and why are they doing this to me again?
Yeah.
So, yeah, good breath. That's the kind of breath that opens the space. And if you look back at your power person and what your power person would do
if you went into the expression of anger or rage, what would happen to you? And as you tap into that, there's the space to do some forgiveness work around what your normal, what the culture would call normal reaction would be to that. Well, how dare you? You know, who do you think? You're just a child. You just know. You know, if there are any of those kinds of responses, then one of the ways of creating a safe space for him is going to be for you to forgive those responses in yourself, so that you are just that awesome active presence and space of love that supports his healing. And yours too.
Yeah, I've actually kind of got the good fortune in some ways to, you know, I'm living with my parents right now, so I'm actually able to, you know, observe directly some of the power person dynamics and also then more easily spot them as they come up inside of me with my own son. And so it's, you know, it's interesting because, you know, when I first got exposed to the work before I built the brain cells, you know, I didn't see it, and now it's becoming so obvious that, like, wow, I'm doing the same thing my dad did that I didn't like. So
no. And that is going to be, you know, to create the space of safety for your son to express those things which you never had the space to express, and perhaps in your world today still don't have the space to express. You know, like, for instance, it would be pretty normal for a kid of that age, having lost his dad, or the person who served his dad, to feel like he's been abandoned. So to create the space for him to say things like, well, Dad, you know, it feels like you've left. Well, instead of going into a conversation about, yeah, well, you see, it's all your mother's fault because she and she and she, you just stop and go, you know, I'm feeling some of that abandonment myself, and I'm feeling scared about it, and I've got some anger about it, and so I certainly understand your anger about it. And I want you to know that I am absolutely here for you, and I hold the space of love for you, and I honor you, and I support you. And, you know, and then if it gets safe enough, then the next thing to come up might just be his rage, which maybe has gotten a little touch of that from his genetics.
Yeah.
And to create a space where if he chooses to do that, and not that it's just, you know, a free-flowing, permissive environment, but, you know, where somebody just says, oh, well, the child has rage, just go ahead and let them express it. And so they become this puking machine all over everybody, that then, as that expression happens, to begin the space of support for healing, to teach him how to heal those parts of his mind and how to be responsible. It's not just a permissive game. That's kind of been the opposite reaction to you're not allowed to express this. Well, just go ahead and puke all over everybody. We're not suggesting that you create the space for that. We're suggesting that you create the space where you allow the space, you allow and support the expression, and then the responsibility for the healing. And that's ultimately what it takes.
Oh.
Good breath.
Yeah, thank you. Wow. It's so helpful to, you know, get these reminders.
So they're the things you're going to have to
so
learn
established.
to bring up.
Hmm?
It's no small task you've chosen to take on here, my friend.
But it's definitely worth it.
And sometimes, and sometimes, you know, you might lose it. And there's a space to model responsibility. Once you lose it, then to recognize that you can come back and go, you know, and son, what I realize is I just lost it, you know. I had no right to be speaking to you that way, and I'm going to be responsible for my speaking, and I'm going to heal those parts of me. I'm going to heal that rage that I have about this that sometimes comes up, and I want to put it on you. And I'm going to feel it, I'm going to deal with it, and I'm going to move through it. And so that's the whole process of real, true healing when we learn that we are responsible and we can change those parts of us that hold just some of the craziest stuff from the generations. And then the craziest stuff that we've experienced. And so you may find yourself, experiencing being more like your dad. And as you do, you get to heal that part of you. And then you get to heal the next layer and the next level. And your son will trigger the next layer. And then you'll find as you model that responsibility, communication, and healing experience, then your son is going to more and more to go, oh, that's how real men do it, as opposed to raising children. That's how real men do it. That's how real men work through what happens in their world when they're not happy with it. Instead of being selfish and self-centered, they actually take responsibility and forgive. And as you model that, you're doing it. And we're here to support you in it. Keep calling into the show, and every bit of support we can give you, we'll do it. Bring a stranger to the show tomorrow. Our time is up. So have a blessed one. Best year yet of your eternal life. Take care. Bye-bye.